Hello, my name is Jake, and welcome to an episode that I am calling I Am Mildly Frustrated with Five Below. Hey there, how you doing? How you been? Anyways, so like I was saying, this episode is going to be a little bit different, a little bit off the cuff, and we're going to be talking about a little trip that my wife and I took to Five Below a couple weeks ago. And so we walked in, we'd take a look around all the little nifty trinkets and gadgets and gizmos, and I came across two things that I hadn't seen before. One being this little cheap 35mm point and shoot camera, and just below that were these rolls of 35mm film. They are black and white 35mm film, and which immediately caught my attention. I love shooting black and white film, and so I went ahead and grabbed 3 rolls and thought, you know what, this would be a fun video to put neck and neck against some other film stocks and see how it compares. You know, it's some cheap film, might as well. Let's just have some fun with it. But being Five Below, you'd think it'd be a budget or cheap film. A roll of this film from Five Below costs $5.25, I believe. Yes, $5.25 per roll. And in comparison, an HB5 Plus 400 ISO film from Ilford costs $6.95 on Cinestill's website. That's typically the film that I like to use from time to time. And so when comparing those are the same ISO. You know, you'd think that it's going to be a pretty neck and neck comparison. So at $5, that seems like a good budget option, except there's one key difference. These rolls of film have only 10 exposures. That is where I'm mildly frustrated, because on the front of the box or on the side or the back or the bottom or anything, there really isn't any indication as to how many exposures are on the roll. Now, if you take your time and look real close, I'll show a close-up shot. There is a part of the canister on the photo that says 135-10, which does indicate that it's 35mm with 10 exposures. But at a quick glance, you really don't notice that. And you don't really notice it in full detail until you open the canister and take a look where it says 400/10, 400 ISO, 10 exposures, where then I realized, oh my gosh, there are only 10 exposures on these rolls of film. That is where I'm mildly frustrated, because in my opinion, that's kind of a ripoff, and I think most would agree. $5 for 10 exposures of a cheap film stock that is unknown and untrusted, it's kind of a ripoff. You know, that's quite a bit of money to ask for 10 exposures. When the Ilford Delta 400 has 24 exposures for just a little over $1 more, and it's a well-known and trusted film stock. And so again, let me just be clear. Anyways, like I said, I understand that Five Below is, again, a step above the dollar store at best. They sell trinkets and gadgets and gizmos that are really meant for kids, let's be honest, or for people on a budget. But at the same time, I've bought many things from Five Below before. I've bought phone chargers, HDMI cables, a lot of different things just for around the house, and never once have I been solely disappointed in a product or felt like I was ripped off. Most of the time I leave feeling like I got a good deal for a budget product. This is the complete opposite of that. This is not cheap for what it is, of course. $5, of course, isn't a lot of money, but for $5 for 10 exposures of black and white film, that's not cheap in comparison to other film stocks. And so that's quite a bit of money to ask for these rolls of film. And that's where I'm a little frustrated. But again, it isn't the end of the world. I could have done some more research. I was a little excited and grabbed them off the shelf and threw them into the basket like a little kid. So that is my fault. But I digress. We are still going to put these films head to head. We are going to directly compare the what I'm going to call the Five Below 400 against the Delta 400 from Ilford. And we are going to throw both these rolls into my Nikon F5 with an 85 1.8, and we are going to take some portraits here in the studio. To make sure that I have complete control over lighting, we're going to meter all of our lighting. It's going to be the exact same setup. The only difference is going to be the film stock. And so that's what this video is going to be today, to see if, Five Below can put their money where their mouth is and show me if this film is worth $5 for 10 exposures. Is that going to be the case? I highly doubt it. But again, this is just for fun at the end of the day. I'm just shooting film for a hobby, you know what I mean? This isn't my career or anything shooting film. This is just for fun. So let's just do that. Let's make this fun. And for all we know, when we convene back here after taking a look at some of these photos, this film might blow me away or be shockingly decent, but I don't really have high hopes. So bear with me. Let's go ahead and get the studio set up, and let's take some photos. All right, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to shoot with the 2 rolls of film with my 2 employees here, Chris and Sam. Say hello. And we're going to see how the 2 film stocks do head to head. So let's get into it. Okay, we're here. We're back in the studio. They've been developed. They've been scanned. We have results. We're going to look at those here in a moment. So first, I'm going to talk about the quality of the images, and then I'm going to get into the developing process, because the developing process was kind of its own experience by itself. So, excuse me. First, we're going to show a Ilford photo here. So this is on the Ilford Delta 400. And now we're going to go ahead and show one of the slides of the 5 Below 400. And right out the gate, you're going to notice a glaring difference. By no means is this a good film, guys. Don't buy it. If you don't want to continue on, you can stop now. Just don't buy it. Just don't buy it. It's that simple. Go spend your money elsewhere. But let's go ahead while we look at a couple more here. We're going to talk about the process of developing this film, because I developed it myself. I did not send it anywhere. Nor do I think you should buy this and burden with someone else with developing this film, because it was a horrible time, at least for me. And I'm not some pro film developer. I've only been doing it for a couple years. And so let's get into that. So I used DF96 Monobath on these rolls. It's a monobath. It's quick and easy and cheap for me to use. So that's kind of my go-to nowadays. I know it's not the best developer in the world, but it works pretty well. So for the Ilford Delta 400, it needs twice as long at the regular temperature. So at 80 degrees, it needs constant agitation for 6 minutes. So for the 5 Below rolls, I didn't know what times to use. I couldn't find any information online. It does look like it has quite a thick coating on it, to my assumption, I guess. So I developed at 2 different times. I developed one roll at 3 minutes with constant agitation at 80 degrees, and I developed one at 6 minutes with constant agitation at 80 degrees. Again, just in case it needed a bit extra more developing time because of that thick material on it, just to make sure. And I'll put a side-by-side here right now of one that's shot or developed at 3 minutes and one that's developed at 6 minutes. And they both look like absolute garbage. They look horrible. There's no reason to buy this film. There's no reason. Someone might argue, but it has a really cool, grainy, low quality look. Just don't buy it. Go out and buy a nice stock film, and if you want to scan it and do some edits to it, then at least you have a good quality image that you can make look rugged and bad intentionally, and still have the option to make it look good with other edits if you're going to edit it at all. It's just not worth your time. $5 for 10 exposures is not worth it. With that being said, also, one of the rolls I didn't even get 10 exposures out of. I got 7 out of one of the rolls. Now, granted, I could have maybe did the lead a little bit too long in the camera, but I find that a little unlikely. I think that they are just not cut consistently and probably have a little bit less exposures on some of them. Also, during the developing process, before even developing, this film stinks. It has a very chemically factory smell to it, and it stinks really bad. During the developing process, it stunk even worse. It smelled like fish. It smelled like old fish that had been sitting out, and I had to sit there and develop it and agitate it in this tank for overall time of 9 minutes. Now, I'd only developed 2 rolls of film because the third one got completely ruined because it is so thick for some reason. This film stock is so thick that the blade inside of my daylight exposure tank would not cut through it. So the first roll I completely ruined because I couldn't get it to spool properly. And after some time of fidgeting with it and figuring out what the issue was, I just didn't cut the film and left it leading out onto the spool during the developing process because I didn't really have any other way of doing it. So again, with all that being said, do not buy this film, at least to my suggestion. If you're your own human being, you can go buy this film if you absolutely want to, but I cannot suggest it any less, really. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money. Go online and order some high quality film. That's a way better price for what you're getting. And especially if you're sending this film out to a company to develop it for you, I feel bad for anyone who's getting sent these rolls because they're also having to deal with this issue. Now, granted, they're probably not using a daylight tank. They're probably, doing it by hand in a dark bag or something like that. But they're still going to have a hard time with it because I tried cutting it with scissors and it was still hard for the scissors to cut. It's ridiculous. It's so bizarre. It's blown me away that a company went out of their way to produce this film. And it's just why is the main question that I'm asking. I know I'm all unprofessional right now about it. I apologize, but it's so bizarre to me that they would make this. And again, I wasn't expecting some crazy quality out of it. You know what I mean? I was expecting them to look like this. But there to be that many different issues with the process, it's so not worth it. It's such a ripoff. It's borderline scam. Just don't buy it. Now that I've done working with the film, I've watched some other videos that people have made on YouTube who have actually also bought the little point and shoot camera. Glaring issues with that as well. None of them are in focus. Now, granted, it's a focus-free camera, but when every single shot comes out completely out of focus, again, it's not worth your money. It's not worth your time. Go to a garage sale. Go to a thrift store. Go on eBay. Find a name brand, cheap, focus-free point and shoot for the same price, and you're going to have a better time. But that's going to be the review of the Five Below 35mm black and white film. Don't buy it, guys. That's, again, my opinion. It's just my opinion, but my opinion is don't buy it. Don't waste your time. Now, with that being said, I appreciate you guys watching. If you have any comments, concerns, questions, or suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. I appreciate you hanging out with me for another episode here. This one's kind of a little bit more of a rant, just a fun little kind of off-the-cuff video, again, like I said. But nonetheless, I appreciate you watching. So I will see you guys in whatever episode you watch next, and have a good day.